Okay, so we are going to make a connection between everything, honestly, we've learned for the last week. So when we did this last, we were finding slope when we are given two ordered pairs. If you remember, we did y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that's a skill that's necessary. But one of the things that it limits us on is we only find the slope using that. So now that we need to find the slope and the y-intercept, and there is a way, trust me, to do it algebraically, step by step, and it takes a longer process. But for time's sake, and because we're going to use this skill a lot more this year, we're going to show you a calculator way, okay? So again, it's important you know that your x's are on the left and your y's are on the right, because order does matter here. So what you do, and this is all listed on your notes here, is you're going to, in your calculator, you might want to reset it. And this works on the app as well, just a little differently. So email me if you have trouble. But you're going to go to stat, which is STAT next to the arrows. We're going to hit edit, so number 1. And then here's where I type in my x's on the left, my y's on the right. So 1 and enter, 4 enter, and there's those. Actually, I'm going to start with number 2 because I remember this one being tricky. So -2 enter, 10 enter, and then my y's will go on the right like that. Again, order does matter, so -2, 4 should be next to each other, 10, -2 should be next to each other because those are the ordered pairs. All right, next step, you're going to go to stat. We're going to go over to calc, so we're going to go to the right, and then we're going to use linear regression, so number 4, okay? And you have to hit enter like 5 times or until your screen changes. On the calculator app, you just hit enter once, so that's the difference. All right, so at the very top, it tells you what the equation is you're looking for. So that's y equals ax plus b, which is literally our slope-intercept form. They just use a in the calculator. So my a is the slope, so we're going to write that down, -0.5. The y-intercept is 3, technically 0.3, but we'll just leave it there, okay? Now, here's the trick. You have to make sure, now sometimes you leave them as decimals, but you have to make sure you know how to change a decimal to a fraction. So the calculator way to do that, of course, -0.5 is easy enough. You type in the decimal first, so -0.5, and then alpha y equals 4, changes a decimal to a fraction. Just hit enter. So it's equivalent to -1/2. Okay, now we just put it all together in slope-intercept form. So y equals -1/2 x. Since the y-intercept is +3, we're going to put +3. Okay, so that's the first step. And again, sometimes they want us to stay there, but sometimes they want to, our answer choices are going to be in standard form. So that's why we're going to connect it to what we've been doing. So to go from slope-intercept form to standard form, remember we get rid of the fraction first. So we're going to multiply everything by 2. 2 times y is 2y. 2 times -1/2 is -1x. And 2 times +3 is +6. My next step is move the x over. Since it's negative, we're going to add 1x. And so we have 1x plus 2y equals 6. Last thing you want to check is make sure your x value is positive. It is. So my final answer without the 1 is x plus 2y equals 6. And that's it. Okay. So long seems like a lot, but honestly, it's the only thing new is the calculator stuff. So let's do that again. If I look at number 3, lots of ways to reset your calculator. So just resetting it, 2 + 7, 1, 2. If you go back to stat, edit, and I have values there, I just hit delete, 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 and then just clears my table. Again, on number 3, we want -4 on the left, next, or -8 also. Those are my x's. Then go to the right, 5 and -5. Make sure that you type them in correctly. Then you go stat, over to calc, number 4, enter, 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 enter. Okay, and again here my slope is 2.5 and my y-intercept is 15. We want to change the 2.5 to a fraction, so you just do 2.5 alpha y 4. And then it's 5 over 2 is the equivalent. Again, we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. So y equals 5 over 2x plus 15. Again, our answers might be in slope-intercept form, but then they want us to be able to go from slope-intercept form to standard. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2 since the denominator is 2. 2 times y is 2y. 2 times 5 halves is 5x. And 2 times 15 is +30. Then I want to move the x over. Since it's positive, this time I'm going to subtract 5x. Some of us try to do that mentally, and so our signs are wrong. Please be careful. Now, since the x is negative this time, I want to change all of the signs because x, the leading coefficient, has to be positive. So 5x minus 2y equals negative 30. And there's the connection from everything we've been doing, so hopefully not too bad. I'm going to talk about those special cases. So if I look at number 5, okay, so I type it into stat. We're going to hit delete, 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 delete. 5 and 3 are on the left, and 9 and 9 on the right. I do stat, calc 4, enter, enter, enter. Okay, if you notice, my slope is 0. My y-intercept is 9. Did you notice the connection there? My y's are 9. So the proper way, I guess, to write your slope-intercept form is just y equals 0x plus 9. But since the slope is 0, you'll never see it written like that. So it's just y equals 9. That's it. Now, what's the standard form of that? The same thing. That is your answer. Okay, let's look at number 6. So I'm going to go to stat, edit. Again, I'm going to delete, 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 delete. On the left, negative 7. Oop, I already got an error. Negative 7, negative 7. Hopefully you already noticed a pattern. 8 and 5. Oop, oh my goodness, sorry. 8 and 5. We go stat over to calc 4, enter, 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 enter. Notice that my calculator gives me error. What did you notice about the x values in this case? They were both what? Negative 7. Because they were both negative 7, remember we called this in unit 2 not a function. The reason why it's not a function is it's going to have an undefined slope because it's a vertical line that goes through the negative 7 on the x. And so it does not have a y-intercept. Now, how do I write the equation of that? Well, if I look back at number 5, since the 9s were the y's, it was y equals 9. Well, since the x's are negative 7, x equals negative 7. What is the standard form of that? Same thing, okay? Now, the hardest it's going to get is if you look at number 1. So I go to stat, edit, and we're just going to do 1 and 4 on the left, 1 and 3 on the right. Stat, calc 4, enter, 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 enter. Notice this one. So it's not that it's harder, it's just the numbers are different. What do you call these decimals from last year? These are repeating decimals. How do I show repeating on a paper? A 6 with a line over it, and I'm going to ignore the 7 at the end. That's just rounding. Then our y-intercept is 3 repeating, okay? Now, changing those to fractions is different because you don't just do 0.6. That's not repeating. There's no way to put the line on top of the 6 on the calculator. And you can't just put a few 6s and hope for the best. You actually have to type 0.6666 all the way until you get to the end of the screen, and then alpha y4, which is equivalent to 2/3. Now, why do you have to type in that many 6s? Well, look, if I just get a few 6s in there and I do alpha y4, it's a completely different fraction. So don't be lazy, type it in. If I look at 0.3, type 0.33333 repeating, then alpha y4, the equivalent is 1/3, okay? I'm not saying never, sorry. It's very rare that you see the fractions have different denominators, but it is possible. We'll cover that when it comes to. But right here, my slope-intercept form is y equals 2/3 x plus 1/3. Now, because my denominators are both 3, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. 3 times y is 3y. 3 times 2/3 is 2x. And 3 times 1/3 is positive 1. Then I move the x over by subtracting 2x. So I have negative 2x plus 3y equals 1. Since the x cannot be negative, we're going to change all the signs, which is ultimately like multiplying by negative 1, technically. And there's your answer, okay? The last type you're going to see is in a table. Tables are nicer because they actually label which ones are your x's and which ones are your y's. Now, a little shortcut here. Down the road, we have to type in every single value. But think about how many points we've been typing in for linear. 2, because that's all you need to make a line, 2 points. So when it comes to the tables, just to save you time, I would just do the first 2 values in that table, okay? Again, down the road, we'll talk about typing in the entire thing, but to save us time, so I'm going to type in negative 5 and negative 10. Those are my x's. And then negative 8, negative 16, okay? Makes sense. Stat, calc 4, enter, enter, enter. And then there's my answer. So y equals 1, or slope is 1.6, y-intercept is 0. Got to change the 1.6 to a fraction, so alpha y4. And so it's 8/5. the proper slope-intercept form is y equals 8 over 5x. Since the y-intercept is 0, do not put plus 0. Now changing it to standard form, I'm going to multiply everything by 5. So 5y equals 8x. Now I got to move the 8x over by subtracting. So it's negative 8x plus 5y. But since I didn't have a y-intercept to begin with, that means my constant is 0. Now, since the negative 8x is negative, we're going to change all of the signs. 8x becomes positive, the 5 becomes negative, but the 0 is still 0. Please don't put a negative 0. Tables are pretty similar, so just rewatch that one if you got stuck. Otherwise, that is it.